Hi, everyone. I am Julie Decoction, and I am one of 3 co-presenters today. I am from the Office of Resiliency and Sustainability, as is Bill Calabrese, who will be speaking later. I'll just give a little bit of a rundown of Executive Order 22 and its impact on green purchasing. And then I'll turn it over to Bill, who's going to talk a little bit about the state zero emission vehicle mandate and what that means in terms of procurement of vehicles and some charging technology. And then he'll also touch briefly on embodied carbon. After that, Bill's going to pass it off to Sean from Procurement Services, and he'll really dive into the details on specific green purchasing options and contracts through OGS procurement. The next slide, please. One more. Sorry. Thanks. So Executive Order 22, which was passed almost exactly a year ago. The title is long. It's leading by example, directing state agencies to adopt a sustainability and decarbonization program. And the title is long because it represents more than just green purchasing. It's about greening all of statewide operations. And what it's done is really consolidated a bunch of other previous executive orders that touch on bits and pieces of climate sustainability initiatives across state agencies and has superseded those previous executive orders listed on the screen here and rolled it up into Executive Order 22. Next slide, please. So in the executive order, there are 75 affected entities, which are named in the executive order. They're either agencies or authorities throughout New York State that make up our government. And all of the executive order is applicable to the 75 affected entities. So another key component for you all to know is that the executive order formally established the Green New York Council as the body responsible for implementing Executive Order 22. And you might have heard of the Green New York Council before, but we are now an official body. We, as OGS, along with 11 other member agencies and authorities, comprise the entire Green New York Council. And as I alluded to before, the executive order touches on a lot of different topics, which means that the council and other members make up a lot of different working groups. So there are these sub-working groups, and there are a lot of those, but the one that's most relevant for today's session is the procurement working group. Next slide, please. All right, so into the meaty stuff, what EO 22 means for purchasing. So the council was mandated to create some Green New York sustainable procurement specifications for all 75 affected entities to follow when making procurement. And these have been created since EO4 was in effect many years ago, which means that those previous Green New York specifications have been carried forward through Executive Order 22. And we have about 90 of them in effect today. These Green New York specifications get created by and brought to the procurement working group that I referenced earlier. And what the working group really does is vet and question the author of those specifications. And there's a whole process by which we bring specifications to the council, first for tentative approval, then we open it for public comments, and we eventually get to a final approval and adoption of specifications. So when the council is voting on specifications and looking to create new ones, we have to take into account a whole lot of different factors that are laid out in Executive Order 22. But a few of those items are listed here, including greenhouse gas reduction goals of the state, looking to reduce waste where we can, especially in packaging, obviously the public health of New Yorkers, and pollution reduction and prevention. And we just included a link here if you want to take a look at any of those specifications. I also want to note that we received a question about if products offered through OGS contracts or preferred sources are identified anywhere as Green New York specification compliant. Right now, anyone who uses that e-marketplace that Procurement has knows that there are some items there that have an icon that identify them as Green New York spec compliant, but you might know from the purchasing notification system messages that the e-marketplace is going to be taken down in the next couple of months. So unfortunately, that means those Green New York icons will also not be there anymore. However, there is a forthcoming effort to establish an e-procurement platform that the procurement team can speak to a whole lot better than I can, but want to let you know that the Green New York Council and the procurement team are having those conversations about how that future platform might include price lists of what's on contract, and those might have a section for identifying products as compliant with specs, but that project is really still in its infancy, in its early stages. So just stay tuned, and we want to make this process of purchasing Green New York specification compliant products as seamless as possible for you all. So definitely keeping with that in mind. Next slide, please. All right, and then also out here with talking a little bit about reconciling some different procurement directives. We've touched on the Executive Order 22 directive that impacts 75 different affected entities. But the other big one that comes to mind, if anyone has attended yesterday's sessions or is a regular procurement officer or a purchaser through New York State as an agency, is that you as an agency are subject to comply with state finance law. And state finance law means that you have to follow an order of purchasing priority hierarchy. So you start with preferred sources, and then if the products there don't meet your form, function, and utility, you can make your way to a decentralized contract, and so on and so forth down that purchasing priority hierarchy. So we've gotten a couple of questions about how agencies who are subject to state finance law are supposed to reconcile that requirement of purchasing through that hierarchy with the Executive Order 22 Green New York spec compliant requirement. And through a number of conversations, we've determined that if an agency is subject to EO 22 or any other state directives, they should consider that as part of their form, function, and utility. And so that way you can make your way through the purchasing hierarchy and look for spec compliant products. And then beyond that, if agencies have in their procurement guidelines written out specifically that they have a preference for environmentally preferable purchasing, that can also be considered a part of an agency's form, function, and utility. All right, I'm now going to pass it off to Bill Calabrese to talk about electric vehicles.
Thanks so much, Julie. Bill Calabrese, also from the OGS Resiliency and Sustainability team. If you can go to the next slide, please. Actually, up 2 slides. And I see some questions in the chat. So if we are not addressing them in this presentation, we can get to them at the end. But I think this one touches on something I was seeing there a second ago. So to delve a little bit deeper into the vehicle portion of the executive order, the EO 22 reinforced the mandate that we would be fully electrifying our light duty fleet, 100% of light duty non-emergency vehicles by 2035, and 100% of our medium and heavy duty vehicles by 2040. Worth noting that the 2035 deadline aligns with the larger regulatory push to phase out internal combustion engine sales by the same year. So while we know there's certainly a lot of challenges and barriers to this, not the least of which is actually procuring and integrating these vehicles, as post-COVID, this has been a big challenge for a lot of agencies. but we are taking the first step with a agency devised plan, which will outline, based on your own kind of fleet composition, the milestones for conversion, and then those plans will be updated every 3 years. Next slide, please. So on the light duty side, hopefully on your fleet team, this is something that is underway. If not, you really should reach out to us, and we're happy to connect you with the template and guidance. These plans are due in December. For most agencies, this should be a relatively straightforward exercise. I think the top 10 agency fleets comprise 85% of the total state fleet. So really for the large majority of agencies, this should be relatively straightforward. But if your fleet team has not started this process, please reach out, and we're happy to connect you to some resources to get you moving on this. Next slide, please. So of course, the number one barrier, like how can you actually begin procuring vehicles if there's no chargers? This is sort of the key consideration in electrifying your fleet. To that end, OGS has implemented some new contracting pathways, some of which range from fully turnkey, where you hand it over to us, we take care of everything through NYPA, and our vendors selected through a brand new contract that is available starting in October 23 for the affected entities under EO22. As part of that contract, we're expanding the offerings for chargers at all of our OGS facilities, which serve at least 20 agencies, but in close proximity to many more. So this should help at least set a stronger foundation for having charger accessibility to make agencies more EV ready. But we know that you're going to need some more, and that there's some dedicated facilities for agencies. So if you are in need, or as you're coming out of the planning process, and know that there is key places that will require chargers in the near term, again, please reach out to us. The NYPA contract also comes with funding, at least for the agencies and executive agencies, but non-authorities is sort of like the main kind of read we're getting from DOB, but we're trying to get better clarification there. But again, this is like from soup to nuts. We can handle the planning, implementation, turning on, and even 4 years of the networking charges to make sure you have the data for understanding how these chargers are being used. Next slide, please. Separately, we have a number of contracts available through OGS Design and Construction. Again, we see this as a very large effort, given that there are approximately 19,000 light-duty vehicles in our fleet. It's going to take a fair amount of chargers. So we wanted to make a wide array of options available to agencies. So separately through OGS Design and Construction, we have CHA and HDR under contract for planning and design services. The nuance of this contract is that the procurement of the construction would just have to follow separately through a unit price contract. And then separately, there's kind of like the DIY option, where if you have in-house or electrical assistance at the ready, and you want to just pretty much procure the hardware itself, our OGS procurement team is working to expand the offerings under our Sourcewell piggyback contract, which should have roughly, I don't know, more than before, but I would say, yeah, between 7 and 10, I think is kind of like the target vendors on contract to just buy the hardware and make the installation through your own agency. So those are kind of like the main pathways from you're doing it entirely yourself, just getting the hardware, to we're taking care of everything. The funding that we have appropriated for fleet conversion is available for most of those avenues. I think the trickiest one might be the DIY installation, but anything happening through OGS design and construction or via NIPA. And if you are an eligible executive agency, it should be relatively straightforward for getting those installations fully funded as well. Next slide, please. So we know charging is not going to look the same at every location. Some places may not have a strong mobile or cellular connection. In those cases, you're going to need just a non-network charger, which is very akin to, your cell phone charging cord, or, all it really is doing is turning on and providing power to that vehicle. And then there's a range of chargers that are fully networked, where you can do some remote diagnostics. You can look and understand what vehicles are plugged in, how long they've been plugged in, if they're actively charging, if there's any issue with the charger. This allows you to be really proactive, and if you're overseeing a large array of chargers across your facilities, you have the ability to make sure you're maximizing the uptime and that drivers aren't coming up to a dead port. So within those network chargers, they range from the lower power end, which will give you a roughly full charge in 6 to 8 hours for a small vehicle, to full fast chargers, which is akin to what you might encounter in coming years on the highway or in downtowns across the state, where you will get a full charge for most vehicles in 20 to 30 minutes. Next slide, please. So that kind of covers the EV portion for resiliency and sustainability. I just wanted to note as well that there are some guidance that is very soon to be issued around embodied carbon. This is something that you may be following, you may be completely unaware of it. But basically, we're trying through Executive Order 22 to better account for the full amount of carbon throughout a product's entire life cycle, from construction, transportation, everything. So there will be guidance issued very soon that's going to cover the common construction materials, which account for most of the embodied carbon, concrete, glass, steel, and asphalt. There's going to be reporting by agencies on the use of these materials, both the how much you're using, but also through what is called an environmental product disclosure, which is akin to kind of like the nutrition facts on your cereal box or any other sort of food product. It's really just sort of listing, again, breaking down how the different steps of that product's life cycle and the associated carbon emissions associated with it. So stay tuned, more coming on the OGS website to be able to download that guidance in the next few months. Next slide. Separately, there was the state finance law, so not to confuse the EPD side of it, but there was a separate law that was targeted specifically for low embodied carbon concrete through the Low Embodied Carbon Concrete Leadership Act. This is also forthcoming in a few weeks. This will be covered or is relevant to state agencies who procure concrete. There are associated thresholds for when this needs to be accounted for. It's not going to be a universal standard, but will define what low embodied carbon concrete is and the roles that the EPDs will play for those mixes. So similarly, stay tuned, more to come on the OGS website, and we'll be pushing this out through some e-blasts as well to make you aware that these are now available. Next slide. So if there's any questions on the portions that Julie and I have presented just now, please reach out to us, sustainability@ogs.ny.gov, especially if you know your agency has not started their conversion plan, have roughly 3 months. So should be plenty of time. It's mostly a straightforward exercise, but we want to get ahead of any questions and help direct you to the resources needed to create a robust and effective plan that will allow us to move forward with charger installations and a larger network directed towards electrifying our state fleet. So with that, I will turn it over to Sean McManus from OGS Procurement.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, OGS Resiliency and Sustainability. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean McManus. I hope everyone's enjoying the presentations. I'm going to talk about green products and that are available on OGS centralized contracts and New York State preferred sources. I want to start today by thanking all of you for what you do and to stress the importance of buying green products. Because by using the power of purchasing, we encourage companies to offer products that are more sustainable. Go green purchasing reduces emissions and waste, protects nature, conserves natural resources, and improves the availability of resources for everyone. And it protects our ecosystems. Next slide, please. Okay, here's a snapshot of what we're going to be reviewing today. Finding green, sustainable, clean products, and I'm going to show you how. Navigating the Green New York website, frequently purchase green products, EV and fleet-related resources, and how OGS can help you close in on those clean products. Together, we can make a difference. Next slide. Finding green, sustainable products. The first thing that I would like to talk about when discussing green purchasing is the procurement order of precedence. If you are a state agency, a public benefit corporation, including most public authorities, a municipality, or a school district, you are required by law to purchase commodities and services from preferred sources first. Second, if the product offered by preferred source doesn't meet your needs for form, function, and utility, which can and should include environmental considerations, then you would move on to the next option, which is OGS centralized contracts. And then if the centralized contract doesn't work or meet your form, function, and utility, then you would consider an agency-specific contract or make a discretionary purchase. On the slide are some of the Go Green products that meet EO2 specification and are offered by preferred sources. And you can see CoreCraft, New York State Preferred Source Program for people who are blind, and the New York State Industries for the disabled. If the product isn't offered by preferred sources or doesn't meet your form, function, and utility, then we are moving on to the next best option. Next slide. OGS centralized contracts. Yes. And some of the procurement methods that you might encounter on OGS centralized contracts can be one of the following: a direct buy, a request for quote, or a mini bid. Check out the how to use links. They are very helpful navigating your procurement. Price lists and contact information, as well as contract updates, can all be found on the contracts award page. Great information. Become familiar with the contract and the type of procurement and the type of engagement before you proceed. And always remember, OGS is here to help. So if you have a question, you can contact the contract manager listed on the contract landing page. Next slide. To assist with finding green products on OGS centralized contracts, we've developed Buy Green Table, which is located on the Green New York website. Here's a look at the table, which includes frequently purchased products and the group and award numbers, contract name, a link to the contract, and a link to the New York Green specification. Some of the notable items include air conditioners, floor coverings, floor finishes, floor removers, floor furniture, outdoor furniture, AAA and AA and D batteries, printing, solid waste and recycling, shower heads, toilets, general purpose cleaners, hand soap, photovoltaic, solar and solar towers, and all things solar, pavement marking paint, lighting, fixtures, ballasts, lamps, computers and displays, hand dryers, and vacuum cleaners. Next slide. And next, we'll talk about some of the most frequently purchased green products. Some of our most popular green products follow: printing, green cleaning products, janitorial paper, electronic product environmental assessment tool, EP computers, re-refined motor oil, hydraulic oil, heavy duty equipment, landscaping equipment, electric vehicle charging stations, and electric buses. Next slide. One of the easiest areas to go green is printing, and there are 3 areas within printing that you can go green: the printer, the consumables, and the paper. For the printer, we recommend that you purchase an EPEAT Silver certified device. However, EPEAT Gold printers are available on OGS contracts which exceed silver. You should also change the default settings to reduce the amount of paper that is being used, and you can do that by choosing to print double-sided, in black and white, and by eliminating cover pages as a default. And setting these as defaults doesn't mean that people can't print double-sided or in color. It just means that they have to choose it when they print. Let's go green, New York. Let's go, New York. Next slide. Next, for the consumables, we recommend that you first consider to use high-yield remanufactured cartridges, which are designed to print more pages than a traditional cartridge and have recycled parts. Then, if that's not possible, you should consider either a high-yield OEM, original equipment manufacturer cartridge, or a regular remanufactured cartridge in that order. And some of the other things to think about when buying a cartridge include choosing a cartridge that meets a third-party environmental certification, such as UL Eco Logo, Blue Angel, or Nordic Swan. Buying a remanufactured cartridge that has been performance tested by a third party to ensure that the cartridge will perform correctly. Buying a cartridge that has been tested for emissions, because printers can have an impact on indoor air quality. And buying a cartridge that is free from hazardous substances such as heavy metals. Next slide. And finally, you should always try to purchase paper that has post-consumer recycled content. We recommend paper with 100% PCF, and that is processed chlorine-free. To assist you, OGS has award 23078, offering recycled paper with 100% post-consumer recycled fiber. Next slide. Another area that's frequently greened is cleaning, and OGS has an excellent 100% all green contract called the EP Cleaning Products Contract, which is award 23245. The best feature of this contract is that it's all green, so you don't have to do any research on the products. You can just use the contract and you know that you're buying green. This is a very comprehensive contract with 12 product categories, including cleaners, power janitorial equipment, ice melt, trash can liners, and janitorial paper. So we highly recommend that you use it for your cleaning product needs. Next slide. Similar to printers, computers can be greened by purchasing devices that meet ENERGY STAR and EPEAT standards. ENERGY STAR is a program sponsored by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. There's a logo of the ENERGY STAR, and you can find out more at energystar.gov. In 2018, EPEAT released a new standard for computers, and under the new standards, we are asking you that computers meet EPEAT Silver Plus. And if you're interested in purchasing a device that is lead-free, which some schools do, you can purchase devices that also meet the reduction of substances on the EU REACH candidate list of substances of very high concern, and that will get you a lead-free device. Next slide. To help you find computers that meet EPEAT standards, OGS has a very popular computer aggregate buy program that we've been doing since 2008. 15 years in the making, folks. Since that time, 3 million EPEAT devices have been purchased and $1 billion has been saved off a state contract price. So in addition to energy savings and reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, you can also save money. Next slide. We have a contract for motor and hydraulic oil that contains re-refined content, and that includes 3 lots. Lot 1 for motor oil, Lot 2 for hydraulic oil, and Lot 3 for diesel exhaust fluid. And these products are available in smaller containers such as 55-gallon drums, as well as in bulk delivery if you have your own tank. Although you can only green oil so much, this is a great way to support the reuse of used oil rather than creating a demand for new oil. Next slide. Vehicles are also an area where we can make positive changes, and the number of electric and hybrid vehicles being offered is increasing every year. Here at OGS, the fleet team manages 160 contracts, and we have contracts from Class 1 vehicles to Class 8 vehicles, everything to meet your needs. Light-duty electric vehicles, electric buses, electric transit buses, electric school buses, and electric vehicle charging equipment are all available. We've got contracts for all your vehicle needs. Next slide. Light-duty vehicles can be purchased through Award 23166, including Class 1 through 8 vehicles, and this includes vehicles for purchase or for lease. You can purchase single original equipment manufacturer OEM vehicles, which are vehicles that don't require a body upfit or chassis body combination, which is typically a Class 3 or higher vehicle that has a specialized body installed on it. This award uses a competitive mini bid process and is for all authorized users to purchase vehicles. It's a lot of fun. Next slide. Here is a screenshot of the vehicle marketplace landing page, and my good friend Carol Nealis manages this contract and will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. This is an amazing contract vehicle to help electrify your fleet. Use it, folks. Next slide. Electric and hybrid vehicles. The contract includes all major vehicle manufacturers, including the following, and you can purchase any vehicle offered by them: Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Nissan, Subaru, Toyota, Volkswagen, and many more. On June 6th of this year, OGS and the New York Power Authority and Department of Transportation, and in cooperation with numerous state agencies and vendor partners, hosted electric vehicle fleet event at the Empire State Plaza. And the event highlighted the state's commitment to transitioning its light-duty fleet to 100% zero-emission vehicles by 2035. This was one of many outreaches focusing on a positive, clean transportation and the steps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve air quality for fleets. Some of the participants included the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, Capital District Transportation Authority, National Grid, Ford, Toyota, Nissan, Hyundai, ChargePoint, Flow, Ytricity, EV Connect, Livingston Energy Group, Kia, and EV Charge Solutions. Collaboration and cooperation. That's what it's all about, folks. Next slide. On March 4th, 2022, the New York League of Conservation Voters held a ride and drive event with some of our electric school bus vendor partners, all of which made the trip from Brooklyn, New York to Albany, New York, a trip of over 100 miles. Wow. Throughout the day, the bus manufacturers showcased the bus's engines, speed capabilities, and smoothness. Overall, it was a great day, absent of loud school bus idling and diesel exhaust. Here's a picture of one of the electric buses that made the trip. Amazing. Next slide. Award 23254 includes all electric bus options. You will want to go to the award page here on the slide and navigate the contractors on the contract and the many different electric vehicle options included. My good friend Seth Johnson is the contract manager and will be glad to help any questions that you may have. Seth told me to look for the EV tag in the contractor's price list and noted that the Department of Transportation pre-approved these designs and EV chassis bodies. Electrifying our school bus fleets are important to accomplishing the mandate of a fully electric New York State school bus fleet by 2035. Zero emission, folks. Next slide. Heavy duty equipment is also becoming more resilient and electrified. Award 22792 includes electric compact loaders, electric excavators, electric skidders, and Award 23182 includes electric cargo vans, electric pickup trucks, mini excavators, electric forklifts, and electric scissor lifts. Award 22792 is for purchase, and Award 23182 is for rental. So if you would like to test the machine before purchasing, perhaps rent first. Next slide. Electric landscaping equipment. Check out the Industrial and Commercial Supplies Award 23262, which includes electric riding mowers, electric push mowers, electric trimmers, and electric leaf blowers for all your landscaping needs. Next slide. Put your shades on. Photovoltaic systems, solar panels, solar towers, power units, solar lighting, racking systems, inverters, charge controllers, battery packs, cables, adapters, and much more. Installation services are also included and a great way to add MWBE and SDVOB goals to your procurement. Next slide. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Look for outreaches coming your way. OGS Resiliency and Sustainability is working on another EV and ride and drive event that will be a lot of fun. Check out the OGS Resiliency and Sustainability website for more information on that. And the Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, is hosting a zero emission equipment demonstration and display on Thursday, October 5th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Five Rivers Environmental Education Center in Del Mar, New York. The event will feature vendors that are on OGS contract displaying their zero emission construction equipment, which will include compact loaders, compact mini excavators, compact wheel loaders, e-dumpsters, solar light towers, telehandlers, and in addition, DEC's Division of Operations will be there with several pieces of zero emission ground maintenance equipment from its fleet that will both be on display and available for state employees to test, including riding mowers, UTVs, push mowers, trimmers, blowers, and chainsaws. Wow. DEC operations staff will also be able to answer logistical questions about incorporating zero emission equipment into your operations. There's no limit on how many folks may attend, so come on out, folks. Thank you. And that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I believe we have some time now for questions.
All right, we did have some questions come in through the chat, so I'll just start with those. Are there reporting guidelines for EO?
So I can take that one. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
The reporting guidelines, it's really going to kind of depend on the issue area. So for embodied carbon, like yes, and will be done through the submission of the EPDs. Again, more to come on that. But really, just if there's a specific question for a particular section, I would say check if you have access through your sustainability coordinator, the Green New York SharePoint, kind of the best universal source for the latest and greatest guidance, which should include reporting. On the ZEV front, of course, again, like this is really like an every 3-year kind of update, which would include a snapshot of your progress made. But across the different other topics of the EO, some of them are really kind of more of just like, here's your references and where you can find better information on things. And there's really no associated reporting component aside from what you would typically be doing through the Green New York survey. So those we're trying to make sure that that is being done with attention and care for the other kinds of reporting that's coming out through the EO, so that there's not duplication of having to go back for the same kind of questions. Yeah, so Green New York survey, check the Green New York SharePoint, but it's really handled by each topic area.
Excellent, thanks, Bill. Next question, will a listing of locations be shared of where the electric vehicle charging station installations will be happening?
Absolutely. So again, to date, like our focus is really OGS facilities, since we serve a number of agencies through those locations and have a number of efficiencies we can gain just by expanding our offerings available through OGS parking. Aside from that, I think that's where kind of like we're going to be looking at those conversion plans and trying to understand what those major milestones are and where those correspond to where your fleet vehicles are located and where they'll need support. So that's really going to change depending on your operational uses and considerations. But having that information through the conversion plans is kind of like step one, and that'll allow us to better engage the agencies across the state and understanding your milestones. However, again, you know your operations better than anyone. And so if there's places that you know you need support and will need chargers, I would say proactively reach out and we can begin the planning process and taking a look at site capacity, if there's any sort of physical constraints, access control, those kinds of things. But the OGS EV website should be the best source for existing chargers, at least at OGS facilities, and any sort of other forthcoming resources that we're hoping to push out through that.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, are the green products labeled as green on the preferred sources website? I'm not sure if anybody here can speak to that or if that's a question that needs an email follow-up. Does anybody know?
I think some might have some sort of labeling, but they aren't necessarily Green New York specification labeled. I would definitely defer to the procurement team regarding the other part of that question, where I think they asked if folks should reach out to the vendors directly to cross-check them, cross-check their products with the Green New York specification. So I don't know, Sean, if you have any insight there.
We're gonna look into that one. We'll have to get back to you on that one. Yep.
All right, we have your email, Timothy, so we'll circle back with you in the future. Regarding the green products available through preferred sources in the centralized contract table, the links lead to the general contract and not to specific vendors or products that meet the Green New York and EO22 specs. Is the best way to determine green products available on the contracts to email each of the contractor points of contact and ask for a list of specific products? So I think this kind of dovetails with the last question, so I'm not sure if we have any other insight. Yeah,
Hi,
but we
Emily.
can definitely.
Hi.
Hi, Todd.
Hi, I can take that one. Can you swap your speakers? Sorry about the echo. Yeah, I would suggest, as far as trying to find green products on the centralized contracts, you really need to do your own research on the specs and then go out and verify that the products meet it. If you if you rely on the vendor to self-identify, I mean, it's a good start, but you might get some misidentified items or even some unintentional greenwashing. So it's really important to do your own research.
All right, thanks, Todd. Next question, is there more information that can be shared about the October event in Delmar that Sean described? It seems like an important event to attend.
Did everybody hear Todd's answer?
No, I wasn't able to hear him. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. All right, we'll give that. Todd's gonna give the answer one more time. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'll try again. Can you hear me okay, Emily?
Yes, you're good.
Let me see. I'm muted. You're unmuted. So when you're looking for green products on the centralized contract, it's really important to do your own research on the specs and to kind of verify for yourself that what you're buying meets them. Because if you rely on the vendor, you're probably going to result in products that are misidentified or even some unintentional greenwashing. So it's really important to kind of do your own research and rely on yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the last question we had, is there more information that can be shared about the October event in Delmar that Sean described? Sean, I don't know if there's a website that we could point people to or if details haven't been ironed out for that yet.
I can drop a link or some information in the chat. There's no website, but there is a Survey Monkey, I think, for RSVPing, and I can provide the hours and all that. So I will do that momentarily.
Okay, excellent. And I'm not seeing any other questions on my end. I don't know if anyone else saw something come in. Oh, I'm sorry, I see an additional one. Are there reporting guidelines for municipalities, or does this just affect state agencies?
I'm assuming that this question is related to Executive Order 22, and Executive Order 22 is only state-affected entities, which are agencies and authorities that are listed specifically in the executive order. If you're worried about whether or not you are a named entity, just Google Executive Order 22 and the list of affected entities is right on that.
Excellent, thank you. Is there an OGS contract available for electric buses outside of the school bus award?
Hi, this is Todd again. So if there are electric school buses on the school bus award, which is 23254. That's our only centralized contract for school buses. We do have a transit bus contract that has an electric lot on it. So if you're interested in an electric transit bus, you can look at that award. That's 23170.
Thank you, Todd. Is there a forthcoming list of vendors who are service providers who are verified in conducting their work in a sustainable way and using green products in the services they provide?
Can you repeat that? I didn't catch the whole question.
Sure. Is there a forthcoming list of vendors who are service providers verified in conducting their work in a sustainable way and as using green products in the services they provide?
I'm not familiar with any effort. I don't know of any. I don't know if you guys do on their sustainability resiliency team.
I don't think so, but I do think that's like a good long-term goal to keep in mind when I think that this sort of touches on like a more specific portion of that question that I referenced earlier, about whether or not we have vendors labeled as Green New York spec compliant, and that with this upcoming e-procurement platform, we're working to integrate that, but it's still definitely in its infancy, and we'll need to just keep working on that for the next however long it takes to get up and running.
All right, thank you, Julie. Next question, can you provide the research guidelines for us? So I think, Todd, this is in reference to the information you gave on vetting products that are provided by some of our vendors.
Well, the specifications are all available on the Green New York website, so that's where you would go to kind of review the requirements.
Great. That's all I'm seeing. And I see that Bill put the Survey Monkey in the chat regarding the upcoming event in Delmar. Anyone else seeing any additional questions that I missed? All right, with that, I think we're good to wrap up this session. Thank you, everybody. And as I mentioned, we will be posting the recording of this session and all of the other GovByU sessions on our website, along with the presentation materials. And everybody who registered will be getting an email with that link once it's up. So thank you all for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you.